Hello, teachers, parents, and educational leaders, and welcome to this episode of Breaking Down the B.E.S.T. Now, during this episode, you will get a peek into the members-only area where I have tons of resources to help you make math fun, make it click, and make it stick. There should be a link somewhere around this video where you can learn more. All right, now that we got that out of the way, let's get to it, and let's break down the standard. Welcome to Breaking Down the B.E.S.T, a video series dedicated to breaking down Florida's best standards for math. So grab something to write with and maybe even a snack. This looks good. And don't forget to put a smile on your face. There you go. I see you. And let's dive into today's best standard. Hey everyone. My name is Sarah McCarthy and I am super excited that you are joining me as we break down the following standard. Today's standard is MA.3.DP.1.2. And this standard says to interpret data, which means to answer questions or explain data with whole number values represented with tables, scaled pictographs, circle graphs, scaled bar graphs, or line plots by solving 1- and 2-step word problems. You know how much we love those 2-step word problems, y'all. All right, so circle graphs. I just wanted to point out too that this is new. This is new for them. For me even. I haven't seen circle graphs in a while. Okay, before we go any further, let me let you know that this document right here that I'm marking up all over is not something that I've created. This is something that the Florida Department of Education releases to the public, and in these Breaking Down the B.E.S.T episodes, I'm just showing you how I break down the standard, and then in the second half of the video, we'll pop over to the website and explore the resources that are available for this standard, strategically aligned to this standard in your taking on the B.E.S.T membership. So first, let's break down the standard, then you'll get to see all the resources, okay? All right, so in benchmark clarifications, again, pointing out the horizontal and vertical display of the data. It says here that circle graphs are limited to showing the total values in each category. Some of the connecting benchmarks here that they suggested were MA.3.NSO.2.2, which is our multiplication and division, understanding and exploring multiplication and division. And 2.4 is the properties of multiplication. You need to know what a bar graph is. It looks kind of like this. You need to know what categorical data is. That means we're breaking it into categories. A circle graph looks kind of like this over here, and whole numbers. So no fractions, no decimals, no negative numbers. We're just focusing on whole numbers here in 3rd grade. Let's continue. So let's look at that vertical alignment in 2nd grade. They had MA.2.DP.1.2, which is representing data with titles, labels, and units. So you can see this definitely aligns this year, bumping it up to the 3rd grade level. And then in 4th grade, we will have real world problems with data sets. So you can see that this is definitely, we're taking steps each year, increasing the expectation for our students. Okay, for the purpose and instructional strategies section, let's see what jumped out at me. It says the purpose of this benchmark is for students to interpret data displayed, so already there, in scaled pictographs, circle graphs, scaled bar graphs, and line plots. We need to make sure that we're including those interpretation skills from 1st and 2nd grade. And here that it says whole number category totals and circle graphs, you may have been like, what do you mean? So instead of using percentages, we'll just state the number. Instead of saying like 30% of students in so-and-so's class like ice cream, we'll list the number of students that selected ice cream as their favorite. So part of our interpretations will be solving 1- and 2-step problems from the given data or to compare 2 data sets in the same units. We want to provide students with opportunities to interpret their own data, and that we will be using all 4 operations here in 4th grade: addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. And that this should be taught with MA.3.DP.1.1. So that's where we are collecting and representing data in 1.1. And then in this standard 1.2, we're really taking time to analyze the data. One suggestion that you might want to consider is allowing students to ask their own questions based on data too. That'll help them to analyze the data as well. Common misconceptions or errors. This is that students may confuse values in scaled picture graphs. Why? Because they're not interpreting the key correctly, and in bar graphs because they're not interpreting the scales correctly. They might be counting by ones when they're supposed to be counting by fives. It says that they should always utilize the given key to determine the frequency. That is true. That's a big lesson to be learned here. In this little section right here, I'm not going to go over it too much, but I just wanted to point out here, if you notice the half right here of the sun, I just wrote right here that when we see half of a shape, that it's a good natural indicator that we need to check out the key. Like, it makes students say, why is there only half a sun? And then that kind of forces them to notice the key. So just be mindful of that students do get tripped up with the key, but it's kind of nice when they list half of the shape because it gets them to pay attention to it. Let's see what it looks like in action here. So this would be an example of a pictograph. You can see here the key equals 8 students, and here are some questions that we can use to interpret, to analyze the data. And then here's an example of a vertical bar graph. And it says here's the question: how many more students chose pizza as their favorite food than classmates who chose salad? And then here is a circle graph, and notice there are no percentages, just category totals. So picking their favorite ice cream. We were just talking about ice cream. So instead of giving like 50, or not 50, that wouldn't be 50. Instead of saying 40% of students like vanilla, because we're not worried about percentages in 3rd grade, we're actually given the total there. And how many students picked a favorite ice cream flavor other than vanilla? So that is not vanilla. Notice the wording can be a little bit confusing, so lots of practice is good for these. And I think that is it. That's the end of the page for 3rd grade. Oh my goodness. Let's go ahead and see what resources you have access to with your Taking on the Best membership that are strategically aligned to MA.3.DP.1.2. So here we are at the website, McCarthyMathAcademy.com. We're going to go right here to members, enter here. Taking on the Best. We want 3rd grade. Scroll down to DP, Data Analysis and Probability. And then right here, we've got MA.3.DP.1.2. There's only 2 standards here, but we are interpreting the data with this one. So the first page that you open up to will be your bronze resources. These are where your video lessons and your students' notes are located. So you can see video lessons, printable student notes that you can just print out and have your students write all over it exactly as we are doing in the video. I'm going to just play just a little smidge of it.
And then we have half of an x. How much does half of an x equal? 1, right? We have 2 plus 1, which equals 3.
Okay, so you can see here, look at what we're doing. We're saying this is where the title is. Here are the categories. This is called a pictograph. Here is our key. Here's how we're analyzing the key. We're going to figure out all the values here, and then we'll answer the questions in the videos. So you can see kind of how that's working. So the first video is all about pictographs and bar graphs, and the second one is with line plots and circle graphs. Now the expectation in these bronze resources, the video lessons, is not that they will master it. The whole purpose is to make it fun and to make it click, to pull them in and to help them to understand it better. The way that they're going to get even better and achieve mastery is with extra practice. I'm a big advocate for practice, and that's why we have the silver plan. Okay, so we go here to the silver plan and click on your printables right here. So our printables. All right, so you'll notice right away we have the video lesson, the bronze video lesson that pops up first. And it kind of goes video lesson, extra practice, video lesson, extra practice. You'll see what I mean. All right, so here we have a vertical bar graph. We're asking some questions about it. How many students voted for their favorite mammal? So that would be all of them together. How many more students voted for dogs than lions as their favorite mammal? That's where we're comparing them. Here we've got a pictograph with half of the x's. So we see the key is that x equals 2 votes. So we know that half of an x would mean 1 vote. And then we have some questions here to answer, like how many fewer students voted for iguanas than alligators. So it's important that students understand what does it mean, how many fewer. And we talk about that in the video lesson. After that, students can practice on their own with the extra practice page that looks very similar to what we just did. The values are just a little bit different. You'll notice that the bar graph has shifted to a horizontal bar graph, and we have different questions here. And then for this one, for favorite reptiles, we've changed the key to equal 6 votes. So hopefully they'll notice that. And so half of an x would be 3 votes. And then we have some questions there to answer that. The next video lesson is interpreting data using line plots, and circle graphs. So you can see this is a line plot about the number of siblings. Here, I just want to point out right here too, and I do in the lesson, this says that for high school, 2 siblings go to high school and 2 siblings go to middle school. Notice these are not equal values, and I did change this out. I didn't change it in the printable because we change it in the lesson just to make it a teachable moment. So just know that I know that. It is changed in the video lesson. And then for extra practice, same kind of thing. All right, get even more practice. You can see here we've got more equal things going on there. Then for the math mission, we're interpreting this data. It says a pizza shop tracks data to analyze their customers' preferences. Part 1, use this table to create a line plot, then create 2 questions based on the data. Include an answer key. So they'll have to use this data, create a line plot, and ask 2 questions with an answers. Then we're going to use this data in the circle graph to create a bar graph. So use what we've got here, create a bar graph, and create 2 questions based on their data. So they might need more room. I would suggest definitely giving them another sheet of paper for this to include their drawings or their questions that they're creating. But you can see here we're taking the learning up a notch. Okay. The final activity in the silver plan is the Math Misconception Mystery video. That's located right here. You just click play and I'll guide you through the entire process. First, students will be instructed to solve the problem on their own or with their classmates. That's fine too. This is a bookstore collects data based on the types of books sold. How many books were sold, not including historical fiction? Notice our key right here. Notice we have half of x's right there. Okay, this is kind of a confusing question if you're not reading it carefully, which is what the mistake that students make. So students will solve this on their own, and then they will watch as 4 other characters solve this same problem. These characters are just me dressed up in silly costumes solving this problem. 3 of the characters are going to make mistakes that students commonly make. So you better believe that one of them is going to be just counting up how many for historical fiction because they saw historical fiction, right? Or counting up just the x's that are there, not understanding that they actually represent 10, or making a mistake as that this half of an x is, it looks weird, so it just must look weird. It's got to be equal 10 too. So you'll see in the video that the characters make mistakes that students commonly make. They'll watch that, and then your students will fill out their detective report stating who the most reasonable answer belongs to and why, and evaluating their work. What did they do that was correct? What was their mistake? What did they need to know for next time? All of the answers for everything that we went through in the printables for the silver plan are right here in the answer key, okay? And then finally, we have the gold plan. If you have the gold plan, you have access to everything that we've gone over, plus even more. You have access to a mini assessment. This is for every standard. You have access to this. So you can see here's our standard right there. There's about 4 to 5 questions per standard. So they're quick. You can use them as a mini assessment, as extra practice, however you want to use them. But you can see the variety of question types that we have here: multi-select, multiple choice. Okay, you can easily translate this into one of those equation editor tasks where they have to input their numbers and stuff like that. Okay, so there we go there. The answer key for that mini assessment is right here. Gold members also have access to the breaking down the best episodes that you're watching right now. So they are available on YouTube, just YouTube contains ads, and here they're ad free. They have everything that you need right there in the matter of just a few clicks. So it's a nice little perk of having the gold plan. But the highlight of the gold plan is definitely McCarthy Math 155. This is a daily math intervention that I created that's aligned to the Common Core standards. Now I know it says Common Core, and we aren't in the Common Core standards anymore. We're in the B.E.S.T standards, right? But there are a lot of skills that do trickle over. So if we click here, the 155 stands for 155 video lessons for each grade level. So if we click on 3rd grade, you can see here all the different units that pop up. We still multiply, we still add and subtract, we're still dividing, we still have 2-step problems, we still are practicing area and perimeter. There's a lot of great resources here that we might need to tweak just a little bit to match what we need for the B.E.S.T, but they're still really good. If we go right here to Unit 9 for the measurement and data, and scroll down a little bit, you'll see some bar graph practice, picture graphs, even though we call them pictographs with the B.E.S.T standards. Okay, not really those. Be careful with line plots because we're measuring to the nearest 1/4 of an inch, and that is not what we need to do in 3rd grade for the B.E.S.T standards, so just be mindful of that. But here, if you needed more practice, it would probably be with day 120 and 121 for bar graphs and picture graphs. I don't have anything for circle graphs besides what's in taking on the B.E.S.T because it wasn't even part of our standard. So you can see here we're putting the data from the table over into the bar graphs and answering some more questions there. Okay, so it does have that, but like I said, when we go back, you can see there's a lot that we do have. 13 lessons for multiplication, 15 lessons for division, so 10 lessons for 2-step word problems. So if you have students struggling with any of these things, you have tons of resources in McCarthy Math 155 as well with the gold plan. All right, I think that is it for going over this standard and everything that you have access to. I hope that this helped it to make sense and that you're ready to get out there and have fun with your students with this standard. But before you go, let me remind you that what you wake up and you choose to do every day with your life, it really does matter. Thank you for stepping into the best version of yourself every day so you can inspire your students to do the same. And of course, thank you for welcoming me into your educational space. I love supporting you. I love trying my hardest to put time back into your pocket. Speaking of time, I know that you are busy and I know that you probably have a lot of things that you need to be doing right now. So I respect that. I'll let you go and I will see you on the next episode of Breaking Down the B.E.S.T. Bye. Okay, so I know that I just said goodbye for now, but I'm gonna ask you to do one more thing, okay? If you enjoyed this episode, please consider sharing it with your teacher friends or other leaders in education. That's how I get to continue doing what I love to do, which of course is supporting you all to the best of my ability. All right, for real now. Bye.